Hegel. Hello and welcome to another episode of Ferret 64 with me, your host, Yemmy the Ferret. I hope everyone's doing very well today or this week. I hope you're all doing fantastic. Whatever is going on, I hope everything's good. I am Yemmy the Ferret, of course, and this is your one-stop shop for video game news, occurrences, first impressions, reviews, and so much more. We got a loaded episode for you all today, so let's just go ahead and get started with what have I been playing this past week. First thing on my list is Another Crab's Treasure. Now, last week I had a section of the podcast dedicated to Another Crab's Treasure, and I would just like to say that a lot of what I said was either rectified, I guess you could say, or I didn't really feel like it was that big of a deal by the time that I was done playing the game. And at this point, I have 100% played the game. I've 100% beaten it, so you might say that I enjoyed it. And I hate to come off too negative when I do the first impression things, because it really is my first impressions. Like, it's literally like I've played a couple hours, I feel confident about talking about the game. And sometimes those few hours just maybe isn't enough for me to get used to it or to really get into the meat and bones of something. So I do apologize for any misleading information that I had or anything that I was wrong about, incorrect about. It's not my intention to mislead people with things, but sometimes you continue playing a game like Another Crab's Treasure, like any game that you could possibly talk about, and things change. You learn about things, and you get used to the game, and then all of a sudden, the game goes from sounding like a 3.5 to a whatever, right? So let's get started. Well, let's continue on, I suppose. Obviously, one of my big concerns about the game starting off last time was how the game kind of felt. Felt a little bit slippery or whatever, maybe a little bit floaty. I obviously learned how to deal with those things just by playing the game, obviously, getting used to how Krill controls and all that stuff. I don't think that it's a big detriment to the game that he feels a little bit slippery or something like that. When I was trying to swing my weapon, I noticed that there was some friction, I guess, at times where I felt like I should have hit something, but I didn't actually hit it. And that's because the heavier the shell you have on, the slower your movements are. So that's another thing that I learned while playing, and I probably should have guessed, honestly, but that's just a miss by me right there. So I do apologize. No, that's another thing that I was kind of wrong about. The other thing that I said was that there's no parry option. There is actually a parry option in the game. You just have to unlock it through skills. And lastly, but not least, of course, I talked about how the game didn't feel like you were underwater. And there was that one area at the beginning where it's like a bunch of sand castles and stuff, and I really thought that it was a okay criticism to have, I suppose, but almost immediately after you leave that area, you have the kelp forest, you have like these anchors and chains, you have this wide open area that just it does look like you're underwater. So I take that one back as well. I think that first area just was I still would say that first area is a little bit underbaked because of just how basic it looks. It just kind of it's a general like first area for any Souls game where it's like it's kind of starting to warm you up to it. So the other thing that I guess that's another thing I was wrong about that I forgot that I said was that there wasn't much to do with the exploring. It's either you go on the straight path and then there's not much reason to explore. Of course, there's reasons to explore. Sure, you don't find new weapons, but you're always trying to find a better shell, or you're always trying to find the upgrade materials to improve your weapon. Also, there's plenty of little stowaways that I talked about last time that attach to your shell, and they give you boosts and different special things happen to you when you wear. Of course, they only work when you're wearing a shell, so that's another cool thing about the game too. Um, you also find just things to sell at the shop too. Like you find all these like human-made things that look like claws, and you get X amount of plastics, which is like the souls in the game for those claws. And on stream, I sold every single claw that I had after fully exploring an area, and I had like 193,000 like plastics or something by the end of it. So it's definitely worth it to go around and find these things. Of course, there are areas that you don't go to because there's no objective over there. There's no whatever. But you go over there and they're very detailed. They're very well done. The handcrafted areas, of course, and they feel good. And there's a lot of fun stuff to do. And of course, yeah, you do need to unlock some upgrades before fully exploring things or places. But you can still go through these areas and do a baseline exploration and then go back if you so desire, I guess you could say. So I think that covers the main things that I was either wrong about or was a bit misleading about that I wanted to rectify here right at the beginning, simply because I feel bad, one, that I did give a bit of a negative first impression for the game, and I didn't mean to because I was really enjoying the game before that, and I think I said that as well when I was talking about the games. Like I know I'm sounding a bit negative, but I'm really enjoying the game. Yeah, I was really enjoying the game. I don't know why some of these things got under my skin a little bit more than they should have, or I don't know why I didn't play more of the game before commenting on some of those things, but I do plan to be better in the future. Obviously, I've been doing this for a long time, so I sometimes get into a bit of a groove where it's like, okay, I played about 3 hours. I can talk about it on the podcast and have some concise thoughts about it, right? In this case, I was off, and I do apologize for that. Some things that I want to talk about now that I have done the 100% for the game, which yes, I got the 100% for the game. It was actually not too bad, all things considered. It does take a little bit of work, of course, and whatever, but the one thing that I want to say about the game is that there's so many imaginative enemies and a lot of variety to the enemies as well. Like, you take this underwater economy, and you can do a lot of things with the different creature designs, right? Lots of different crabs, of course, roaming the seas. So you're mostly gonna be fighting crabs and like tuna or whatever they are with the little spikes on their heads for the first part of the game. But there's also the puffer fish, which I would say are the least, the worst designed of the enemies, just because of how the physics work and the engine works. It doesn't really, like, the pufferfish are just more annoying to fight simply because they makes the camera go crazy, which I do stand by that criticism. I think the lock on camera is a bit finicky at times. It'll sometimes like follow the enemy too well, and it won't unlock from the enemy as you're like doing something, even if you press the button sometimes. And then other times it'll go behind something and cause you not to be able to see what you're doing, which can be a bit annoying at times. But for the most part, it was the camera was fine. There was just certain areas and certain enemy configurations that made it go a little bit weird, a little bit wild. But yeah, the enemy design, for the most part, is great. Even the more challenging enemies towards the end of the game had really interesting designs to them. And yeah, most of the designs are going to be like different kinds of crabs with different weapons, but you got these guys with toothpicks who are like archers and they shoot toothpicks at you. You got these guys with bombs who shoot bombs at you. There's these big, I don't know, groupers or whatever who are just big guys and they slam stuff and they throw toxic waste at you and stuff. There's these seahorses with those like little pill-looking things that you put in the water and then they turn into like a dinosaur or whatever, like a little sponge dinosaur. They shoot those at you and they explode and they turn into the dinosaurs, which is really cute, really good idea. Later on, there's another version of them that blow bubbles that do like water damage, which is kind of a weird thing to say. I'm not sure what exactly it's called in the game. but it's like a blue bar that fills up, and I'm pretty sure it makes your shell more susceptible to being destroyed, or it's constant degradation on your shell if it fills up all the way. There's also another bar that fills up that's like white. It's like a triangle and it's white, and if that fills up all the way, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure that's the one that makes you more susceptible to damage and stuff like that, especially your shell. I think it's called petrification or something like that. Anyway, other enemy designs that are really cool. There's an area where you're like deep underwater, and there's like these see-through fish. Just the things you would see that deep in the ocean, right? Cuttlefish, I'm pretty sure they are, with the little like the tentacles coming out of their mouths and stuff. Really cool enemy design, really challenging enemy design as well. There's these spider crabs who are kind of freaky in real life, but they're even more freaky in this game because they have like laser beam attacks. We did find a way to defeat them, but they are very towering, monstrous types creatures. They're not to be easily written off, I would say. And I'm sure a lot of people just run past them. I'm someone who goes, when I play a Souls game, a lot of times it's like, okay, I beat this enemy once, now I don't have to beat them again. Now I can run past them if I want to, right? That's how I kind of play Souls games. So what I did is I beat the spider crabs, all of them, and I got past them, and I didn't have to beat them again because I was already past that area, and I didn't have to go back to that area because I had already searched it pretty thoroughly after I killed everything there, which is a nice thing. But there was another time that I was going through like the Duchess's castle, and you die here and there. You're early in the game. You're not whatever. And eventually, I just decided to run past the enemies who were there because I already killed them once. Why kill them again? Obviously, and a lot of times that comes from the confidence. I had to rearrange there. The confidence of knowing, thinking, not knowing, but thinking that you're going to get all your stuff back because you're good enough at the game to get them back. And sometimes that backfires, obviously, but for the most part, about halfway through the game, I stopped struggling and just kept having fun, right? I was having fun and struggling for a little while, and then after a green lobster fight who kicked my ass thoroughly for a couple of, maybe about 10, 15 tries, after that fight, I really started to hone in on what I wanted to do as a build and how the game functions. I really started to hone in on that stuff, and that actually, after that, made the game feel a lot easier. Now, I won't go out there and say like this is the easiest Souls-like ever, but obviously it leans more towards the side of like Star Wars Jedi Survivor and stuff like that, where it's more so focused on the story and the atmosphere and the locations rather than being a super duper challenging game, right? And although I'm not going to lump it in with the Star Wars games because those really are for your beginner Souls-like experiences, right? But it is more towards the middle, kind of like where the Remnant, where Remnant 1 is, and boy, I would even say like Dark Souls 3 or Elden Ring. It kind of lumps in towards that area. I would say it's easier than something like Elden Ring or something like that, but I think what really, if you're a Souls fan, I think what really builds this up is just the kind of variety that you have in your moveset once you get it going. The ability to, kind of play the game in a few different ways. And also just like, it's a very unique Souls-like and just atmosphere and location and whatever. So even if it isn't the most challenging thing ever, there's still a lot to really love about this game if you are a Souls fan or you like playing Souls-like games. Obviously, it's not as polished as something like Elden Ring or Dark Souls or Bloodborne or whatever. Insert Souls game here by a AAA developer, AA developer. But I think that in general, it never really became a problem for me that the game is not as tight as those games, right? And I think that's because of the more whimsical nature of the adventure, right? Not so much whimsical as in like kitty, but whimsical as in like, you're a freaking crab who can put different things on its back as a shell, and there's like these crazy designed like bosses and characters. Like it's not like it's not like Elden Ring or Bloodborne and whatever. It's much different than those ones, which I think helps the game stand out. Obviously, the underwater vibes are great. The music is fantastic. Like there's this one section where you're going through like almost like an industrial zone, but there's a bunch of gunk on the ground, and there's like you're going through like propane tanks and stuff like that, and they're playing like this like really bopping music, and I was like, oh yeah, it was kind of like the first time I really stopped and listened to the music, and a lot of times the music is like a if the game's a sundae, then the music is like the chocolate sauce on top. Like you notice it, but you're not like noticing it because it all blends together. But that was the first time I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize how good the soundtrack was until we got here. And once I went back through the other areas, I was like really listening to the soundtrack, and I'm like, wow, the soundtrack is actually really good for this game. They really did a great job with Another Crab's Treasures OST, and yeah, I don't have any complaints about it at all. It's a soundtrack that fits the game itself. And it's another game. It also doesn't overstay its welcome. There's a lot of games like I felt like last year I commented about this, but I felt like Liza P went one area too long, and that area just wasn't as tight or as good as I wanted it to be. And of course, opinions can differ, obviously, but I felt like the last like 2-ish areas that you go through, the bosses were great, but the level design and stuff was not that amazing in my opinion. It was more so like. It was obviously meant to be more frustrating than it should have been, right? Whereas with Another Crab's Treasure, I feel like every level feels good. There's not like an overabundance of bullshit, It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't overstay its welcome. So when you think the game is wrapping up, it is pretty much wrapping up, right? And I felt like the last boss fight was really well done. And of course, we also need to talk about the incredible voice acting that went into this game as well, because Michael Reeves is the Blue Lobster. Why can't I remember his name right now? He's the Blue Lobster, and he's also the shark at the beginning of the game, the shark guy. And he did a really good job, like way above. Like he was so good. Like he put everything into that performance, and like I would not be surprised if we see Michael Reeves show up in another game, whether it be an indie game or AAA game or whatever. I don't know, but like he did a great job, and I was very surprised, especially when like tension started heating up and he had to give more of a serious performance. And yeah, it was just one of those things, like he really had a great range to him. Everyone else also did a good job as well. I thought, at the beginning I was kind of nervous about Krill's voice acting because it was way too like, I don't know, kind of like kiddish, but I think that the voice worked with the character as I grew, as I went on and grew more fond of the game. I was like, the voice is actually fitting for the most part. I'm not going to say it's 100% great, but I did not find the performance bad or anything like that. So, what more can you say? Man, there's probably more that I really want to talk about here. Here, let me talk about some stuff that I missed from last time. The skills in the game, you unlock those at the Moon Crab, and the skills really are very, very helpful. There's ones that regrow your shell after it gets destroyed. There's another one that lets you use your hook as a zip, and you zip towards the enemy instead of pulling them towards you, which is also a pretty fun mini game too. Like if you throw your hook at an enemy and you want to pull them towards you, you have to do like this little fishing mini game, which is like actually bizarrely fun, a little bit challenging too. There's other skills that there's one in particular that I liked a lot, which of course was the parry and then the follow-up attack. I thought that was a great addition to what I was doing with my build. Now I was doing a lot of charge attacks, so anything that I saw that was charge attack, like I put on immediately. And there's one that really was helpful, is if an enemy hits your shell, your next attack is like 20% extra damage or something like that. And I think I unlocked that skill like as one of my first skills that I unlocked. So let me go on to my build. If you're someone who's struggling with the game, or maybe you don't know exactly what you want to do, and maybe you're not the best at dodging, maybe you're not the best at parrying, maybe you're whatever. I found a pretty good build for myself, and maybe you will enjoy it too. If you want to copy it, you can. I'm not going to stop you, and I'm sure a lot of people have found this build themselves just by playing the game. I was struggling to dodge attacks a lot of the time because the tracking in the game reminded me a lot of Dark Souls 2, where the enemy's attacks are a little bit slow and lumbering at times, but they track you so precisely, and you got to dodge at the very precise time for some things. Not all things, of course, but there are a majority of attacks that you feel like aren't going to hit you, and then for some reason they like zoom to you and poke you, and it's like, what the heck, man? So I always got accustomed to just dodging whenever I saw an attack was ready to go. But then, like I said before, kind of around that Green Lobster fight, I don't want to give away the name just because, whatever, but right around that fight, I started to realize, like, hiding in your shell is actually the optimal strategy. And that's when I got that skill for double damage or whatever it is when your shell gets hit, and I did a bunch of other things for the shell. And then I looked at my stowaways, and I realized that there was also stowaways specifically for your charge attacks. And of course, you need to have base level stats for each of your four categories high enough to use the different abilities, or I'm sorry, the different stowaways. But the two that I was using would end up being the ones that I would keep for the rest of the game, which is 20% extra damage with charge attacks and 30% damage with extra charge attacks. Those actually stacked on top of each other, I believe. I could be wrong. Maybe it was a placebo effect, but I really felt like I was hitting them super duper hard after putting those two on. And then I also put on the Rusty Nail, which gives me plus 10 attack strength, but minus 3 magic. But I was barely using the magic at that point, or after that, I would say. But that's essentially what I did, and I was able to charge attack my way through most, if not all, the bosses, minus I think the last boss and the second phase of the second to last boss. But everyone else I was able to do my use my strategy with, and it worked out really well. I felt really satisfied while playing the game, and there was a span where I didn't die for like 4 boss fights in a row. Got a little bit cocky, of course, by the time the third to last boss came around, but it was one of those things that you felt. I started to feel really good, and I was feeling myself. And by the time I finished the game, I felt like I could really take on anything. So I tracked down the side bosses that I missed and all the different items that I found all the different shells. Which, let me tell you, great job with the shells too. Like, there's some that are just like so well designed. Like, there's an N64 cartridge, but not really an N64 cartridge. There's a little toy truck. There's obviously there's the gun, which is kind of the meme, but you turn on the assist mode and turn on the gun, and you can actually kill any enemy in one hit. I think most bosses are one hit as well, unless they have a second phase. So that's like the quote unquote easy mode. Well, I guess not really quote unquote. It is the easy mode. And I'm not gonna, shit on anyone for using that. Of course, I mean, it's in the game. Go right ahead. I'm not gonna gatekeep another crab's treasure, But I just want to mention I did not get that achievement till after I rolled credits, and that is on my achievements list that I did not use the gun until that point. So, is it a bit sus to see that achievement unlocked before the end of the credits? Sure, but I'm not gonna sit there and be like, oh, you used the gun, didn't you? It's like, I don't really care. I don't really care. As long as you had a good experience with the game, that's really all that matters. And for me personally, it wasn't using the gun. I was just using my strategies. But for you, maybe the fun will come when you're just capping bitches with the fucking gun. Maybe the fun will come to you when you become a parry god. Maybe the fun will come to you when you become a tank build like myself. Maybe the fun will come to you when you use a magic build. It's really up to you to how you want to play the game, and anyone gatekeeping you from having fun from the game, just I mean, don't tell them to fuck off, because that'll probably escalate the situation, but you just ignore them, really, for the most part. And like I said, I'm never like, as long as it's a part of the game and it's not like a glitch or whatever, I'm fine with it. Like, they put it in there for a reason. Maybe it was for the meme, or maybe it was because they wanted to give people the option. I don't remember exactly why, but I do remember when they announced it, people really thought that it was a joke, but they actually put it in the game. They went ahead and did it. So final point here, so because it is officially a part of the game, guess what? I don't mind you using it. Just like with the ashes in Elden Ring, people thought that it was easy mode to use the ashes or whatever. Who cares? In Liza P, people probably were saying, like, if you use the summoned helper, you're not really getting the full experience. Who cares? It's in the game. It's available for you to use. Use it. Don't be bullied by these people. Just because one person doesn't feel the need to use it doesn't mean that everyone does not have, feels. Everyone experiences these games in a different way, and if you can't see it from another person's perspective, much like everyday life stuff, then I don't know, fuck off. it's hard, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, I mean, just accept that other people are going to use it and move on. It's not going to affect you at all. And damn, you could tie this conversation into a lot of stuff going on right now. But as long as it doesn't affect you personally, why do you really care enough to, make such a big stink about it? Especially when it's a video game. It's a freaking video game. They're made to be fun. And if you're having fun using the gun, more power to you. And in the end, I gave Another Crab's Treasure a 4.5 after finishing the 100%. I didn't move that anywhere. It's closer to a 5 than a 4. But it's one of those it's one of those things that's like, the camera is just a little bit too wonky at times. If they fix how that camera works, and they fix like it going through objects, and they kind of semi-fix the pufferfish enemy, I think we got a 5 out of 5 on our hands, but it is a 4.5 for now because of the reasons that I just listed. Whew, okay. Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. I finished this game literally the same day that I recorded last week's podcast. So I'm like a week removed from it at this point. But I would like to say that, first things first, thank you to Demonic Lucy in the Discord for gifting it to me for my birthday. I'm glad that I got to play it now rather than later. I mean, obviously I would have played it eventually, but I felt like the experience was just fantastic. It's another one of those games that it kind of uses that like God of War 2018 style adventuring where there's these areas you go to and they're connected by, maybe some crevices that you have to squeeze through or jump up onto something or climb something, right? And it's pretty much just a single experience, a single like gameplay cutscene straight. There's no loading screens unless you're loading in from dying or you're loading in from fast traveling or loading in from starting the game up fresh, right? There's no load screens. It's all like a synonymous type thing, which is really cool. So props to the developers for that. The other thing that this game does really, really well is the story. I mean, there's a reason why I was playing the game for like 4 to 5 hours nonstop, and that's because the story was so gripping. Like even the side missions where you're just maybe solving a haunting or you're dealing with someone's bullshit or maybe you're just adventuring around doing random tasks, right? I always felt like the writing and the storytelling were on point. There was never a haunting where I was like, well, this is a rehash of what we already did. There was never like a mission I wouldn't say mission, but a haunting where you had to solve a case that was like that, where I was like, oh, we already did this, or we already did something like this. Everything was fresh and different, and sometimes they had multiple layers that I really wasn't expecting. Pretty far into the game, there was like this case where the guy's wife or something was killed, and he wanted to bring her back, but he accidentally fucked up the ritual, and he brought back his brother's ghost, who was like in an affair with his wife, and there was like it went in like a totally different direction than I was expecting, right? And it was just so cool and so kind of bizarre at times, But the voice acting was on point the entire time. The game itself just like really high quality stuff. Like it doesn't have the most amazing graphics ever. No, but they're really like they're actually really good. Like sure they I mean you can't really compare them to something like like Stellar Blade or Final Fantasy Rebirth, right? But they're still like the graphical style is really nice. Like it's really good. There's some really nice vistas to overlook. One of my favorite locations was like this ship that ran ashore and split in half. And it was just like on this like coastline. It was just a beautiful sight, and you also explored inside of it. And I thought that was such a beautiful area to explore. All the animations too were really good, like from your rifle firing to switching over to your ghost form as Antea and doing stuff in the ghost form. The different like things you can do, like the summonings and stuff like that, all looks really good. Character interactions on point. I mean, there's really not much that I didn't like about the game per se. I found like the combat to be fun, but there's two sides to the combat. One is Antea and one is Red McWraith. And Red's moveset pretty much stops at I have a rifle. Like that's the last thing you get for Red, which is unfortunate because I was really hoping for something a little bit more for him to really flesh out his combat a lot. But essentially, he gets a rope, which is not used in combat. It's to make shortcuts in the game, and then he gets the musket, and it's like, yeah, the musket's cool. Obviously, it does a lot of damage. It's good to use, but I was really hoping for one more thing for his combat stuff because Antea gets a lot of stuff. By the end of it, she has a full move set, right? She starts off kind of basic, but she builds on her character. And I was hoping the same thing would happen to Red throughout the game as well, but unfortunately, it did not happen, and I felt like, yeah, that's a bit of a negative for me personally. Like, even though the combat's fun, it's a bit one note with Red, and it can become one note with Antea. The other thing about the combat is the enemy variety just is not there. There's like 4 or 5 different enemy types, and that's pretty much all you get. Sometimes they go into an end, like, I say 5 enemy types, but that's like the ghosts, right? You have like the little balls that chase you around and suck your energy. You have the regular like walkers who are kind of like white-ish. You got the green guys who they're like the ranged enemies. The purple ones are the fast enemies, and then you got the big blob guys who do a lot of damage, and they're big and they're like the Hulk, right? And then every single one of them can go inside of like a body. So you have the wolf, you have the bone walker who has like a double axe. You have a more sophisticated bone walker with a sword and can parry you. You have a musketman, and you also have like this pitchfork lady as well. And there are a couple boss fights mixed in there that do add a bit of variety to it, but for the most part, that's your enemies, and those are the only enemies you're going to find throughout the game, which is a little bit disappointing also to me as well. Like, not disappointing per se, but just kind of was like, all right, we're fighting the same enemies again. I know how to beat them, And sometimes they would be a higher level than me and give me a little bit of challenge, but other than that, you knew how to beat them by the time that you were halfway through the game, and they never really changed up their tactics to give you anything more than what the game has to offer. But that being said, I think the design of the enemies are really cool. If you swipe at a ghost with your sword, like, it does damage to them, but you can actually see your sword go through them at the exact angle that the sword went through them, and it kind of like makes a break in their reality or their ghostly figure, which is really cool. Like, very well detailed there. You can definitely see it with the big guys. It's harder to see with the smaller ones. And the bosses can actually be pretty cool as well. There's a couple bosses in there. One of them's like a big beast. The other one's like a giant who is chained up. Like, there's a couple of really cool boss fights in there too. Like, they're not super challenging in my opinion. The ending boss was a bit challenging. I'll give it that. That actually was a bit of a challenge, especially when the second phase came through, and I was not ready for that on my first time getting there, and I was like, oh, fuck. And like the conclusion to the story as well, that now that we're on it, is also really good. Like, I really enjoyed that. And of course, throughout the game, as I talked about last time, I talked about this Banisher's Ghost of Dewey's, and throughout the game, you're choosing whether to ascend the ghosts / banish them, or to kill the person who is being haunted and take their essence and put it into Antea. So it's either resurrection or ascension for Antea. And the game isn't like a Telltale game or whatever, where at the end of the game you can still choose what you want to do. No. Once you start on a path, you either gotta stick to that path, or you know, the game, because essentially what the game's going to do is it's going to decide for you by the end of it, depending on how many ghosts you ascended or banished / how many people you killed, right? So that adds a lot of replay value to it, because there's a lot of people that I said I would love to fucking stab you with this sword right now. There were so many people where I was like, I want to kill you so bad, but I didn't, because I was following what I felt like the character should do, right? Because from the get-go, they're like, well, death for the dead, life for the living, right? And Antea's dead, so she should be ascended. But yeah, I feel like it would be an interesting thing to go back through the game, which adds a replay value, 30 hours of replay value to the game, which is pretty good, where you can do different things. You can choose different fates for these people, which is really, I mean, what more could you want? Like that's such a, it's a fantastic thing that they did for the game. And maybe on a base level, or a surface level, I should say, it's a bit basic. But I mean, I don't subscribe to that camp, so whatever. Yeah, it's also one of those things where it's like, I like, I could highly recommend this to anyone who likes a third-person action game that feels a lot like God of War. Obviously, it's not as brutal as 2018's God of War, but I would say it's more closely related to 2018 God of War than Ragnarok, simply because it really does feel like a concise journey, like a single journey, right? And going to the mountaintop in God of War 2018 really felt like a journey, right? In Ragnarok, I mean, they try to do it again, but it's not as effective in my opinion. 2018's God of War is certainly a good comparison for this game, in a few different ways. Obviously, the combat, like I said, it's not as brutal as God of War. You can't do like you can do kind of like a finishing move, but it's not the same, So if you go into it with the idea that the game is going to be like God of War 2018, then I think you're going to have a good time with it. Obviously, it's not exactly like God of War 2018, so don't go into it with that mindset. But at least know, like, yeah, if you enjoyed God of War, this one is going to be right up your alley, I think. And it was up my alley, and me, I have a pretty wide range of video game tastes, but I can definitely recommend this one. And if you don't want to buy it for full price, obviously that's your decision, but I would definitely recommend, if you can, get it now. And if you want to wait for a sale, go ahead and wait for a sale. I'm sure it'll be on sale with the summer sale for Steam or something like that. I think it was already on sale once this year already for like a spring sale. I think it was. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough for me to, well, it was enough for me to be like, I might get that. And then it was gifted to me, so I was like, nah, never mind. In the end, I gave Banishers a 4.5 out of 5, just like Another Crab's Treasure. And I am planning on going back and finishing up some of the stuff in the game that I didn't do. I don't think I'm going to replay through the game, on doing the different thing right now. But in the future, I can definitely see myself replaying it and being the bad choices, I guess you could say. Maybe not bad, but, being a bit more aggressive. I also tried out a game called Zao, right? That's what it's called, Zao and the whatever. Hold on, let me see what it's officially called. Tales of Kenzuru Zao. This is one that I thought looked really good, really flashy, and it was really flashy. I mean, the graphic style is nice, and the world is very well detailed. But I could just not get behind the combat. It's a very stiff combat mechanic, and it's also a very stiff platforming game as well. And I was comparing it to the Prince of Persia game that came out earlier this year, and I was actually hoping that it was going to be better than that game, because that game left a little bit to be desired by the end of it. Yeah, it ended up being this Zao game ended up being just a bit too stiff, and the platform was a bit too rigid, and I ended up just being like, yeah, well, I tried it and I'm not vibing with it, so I'm not going to sit here for 7 hours or whatever playing through a game that I don't feel like feels good. So unfortunately, I decided to get a refund for it on Steam. But if you're a fan of Metroidvanias and you liked Prince of Persia, it's definitely in that same vein because it is a Metroidvania and it's definitely kind of close related to that Prince of Persia game. But the combat in Prince of Persia was just so much better, and the platforming wasn't as annoying. So there you go. On stream, we've been playing SteamWorld Heist, which I'll talk about once we finish that. But May the 4th be with you, folks, because the day that I'm recording this is actually May the 4th, which is actually a day earlier than I usually record things, but I'm going to be busy tomorrow, so I wanted to make sure I had enough time to get this recorded and edited. So for May the 4th, we played an oldie but a goodie. We played Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, which I haven't played this game since I was like a wee young lad. I remembered the game pretty well, actually, for the most part. Obviously, there were some things that I forgot about it, but it follows this guy named Dash. He's like a smuggler / bounty hunter, and the rebellion hires him, so he smuggles some stuff to Hoth, and while he's at Hoth, the Empire attacks, and the Battle of Hoth happens, and you have to escape Hoth and out of the asteroid field. Then you have to track down Boba Fett, get some information from him, and then you have to take out the Black Suns gang, and that's kind of where the game ends. And for an early N64 game, the first Star Wars game on the N64, thank you to Kalas for the information, it's actually pretty good. Like, it held up really well. I'm not the type of person to, like, totally slam on older games for worse mechanics and stuff like that. Obviously, I do pick apart some older games, but this was one that, even though it was a bit, like the platform was a bit weird because it's got like tank controls, but it's like got the N64 joystick. Even though the platform was a little bit weird, everything else was really well done. I thought the environments were well designed. I thought that the soundtrack, of course, by John Williams was great. And I also was very much enjoying the combat, which is kind of funny because the combat's probably one of the things that most people would probably shit on the most nowadays. But it works like like any third-person game from that era where the gun kind of auto-tracks to whatever's closest to you and you just kind of blast away, And even though it's not super long or not as engaging as like Rogue Squadron or something like that, it was still a good time. And what more could you ask for when you're playing an old N64 game? Like it's one of those games that obviously it's seen better days. Back in the day it was groundbreaking, right? But nowadays it's it's good and it holds up well. But you have to go into it with the idea like, yeah, this is an N64 game, And on top of that, if you try and play the Steam version isn't optimized for your PC. The controls are probably going to be kind of weird because this game was literally made for the N64. So, I would say if you want to play this game, to try and get original hardware. But if you get it on Steam, you're probably get the modded or something like that. And that's pretty much it for me. I've been playing Rusty's Retirement a lot. I've been kind of letting it go. I unlocked the second farm you can get, and I've made that farm into the Twitch farm. So the nice thing about this game that I didn't mention last time is that there's a Twitch integration which allows your viewers to join and help out on your farm doing the various tasks that just Rusty would do, which is really cool, really enjoyable. We've been doing that, so if you want to swing by a stream and help out on the farm, boom bada bing, !join, and you're in. And you can help out. Alright. This just in. Local blue-haired gamer played a game about being in the ocean and finding fish. Let's hear what he has to say.
Hello. Thank you, Yemmy, for that lovely intro. This is the Kalas Corner with a K. Here, once again, to bring you information on the latest Nintendo releases, or whatever else I got that Yemmy chose not to get. this time being Endless Ocean Luminous, a game that I've been excited about ever since it was announced at the Direct a few months ago, or whenever it was that it was revealed. So I'm a big fan of the Endless Ocean series. I have both games on the Wii, which, confession time, I really only played through the first game. I actually got the second game, Endless Ocean Blue World, a couple years ago, I believe, like around when I started streaming. And I've been telling myself, okay, just gotta find time to play it. Maybe I'll play it on stream one day, and that day just never came about. I did just play it for like a little bit to try it on and see what it's like, but I never played through it. And when this game was announced, I was thinking, oh, this would be the perfect time to play it. But then April got really busy for me. I went on 2 different trips, and yeah, it just never happened, unfortunately. But still excited to play this game, and I did play a big chunk of it yesterday. And a little bit this morning. So let's get right into it. So I have seen word on the street that this game has been getting bad reviews. I did take a glance at like some scores and like some blurbs of what reviewers have been saying about this game, saying it's very boring and dull and this and that. And I feel like these reviewers just did not know what to expect, because this is not like your typical game. This game doesn't really... It's less of a game and more of a interactive, immersive encyclopedia of ocean life. Let's say. It is not a game like Subnautica or Epsu, where it's, pretty fun and you get to explore and you get to do all these things and it has like some story and stuff. No, this is more like slow diving at like your own pace, and you're like exploring animals, and every time you scan an animal it gives you a description and you can like read and learn about ocean life. And it's just like a very chill and relaxing game. It is exactly what I expected it to be. So I don't know why so many people are giving it like low scores and saying it's boring and this and that. I feel like those people just didn't really know what to expect. But me, as someone that has played previous Endless Ocean games and actually do enjoy playing this kind of game, I actually really enjoyed it. You go on dives, you kind of like explore, you swim around, and you scan all types of fishes and sharks and turtles and crabs and this and that, and if you want, you can like also learn about them. And there's like this AI voice that actually I don't know if it's like an AI voice or if it's actually recorded by someone. But I mean, in the game, it is like AI giving you all this information. But anyways, it does have a story mode, which is like just very basic, and I think the whole first chapter just serves as a tutorial of sorts. But basically, the story is that there's this thing called the World Corral, and it is vital for like sustaining ocean life, but it's like rotting away, or like something's happening to it, and if it dies, then like basically puts the entirety of all ocean life in danger if it like fully deteriorates. So you're part of like this research team of divers, which is really just you and just one other guy. You guys are like tasked with like investigating and finding out why it's dying, and trying to, you gotta try and save all sea life, the entire ocean ecosystem. And the way you find out to do that is like you just scan fish, and like the fish, like when you first start diving, like all the fish are like covered in like this dark light, like all the fishes just have like this dark hue over it and kind of like glowing edges. And like when you scan it, the fish comes to life, and you can actually see what they really look like, and you see their colors and stuff. And they do some sort of like weird excuse, like, oh, this bioluminescent bacteria that's covering it, and like the electromagnetism from like the scans make them scatter, and that's why you can see them afterwards. It's just some BX excuse, basically, to make you want to scan everything, which, whatever, it works. So you go around, you scan all the fish, and apparently that helps save the ecosystem. But I'm only through the second chapter. There are more chapters, I believe, like 5 or 6. But the chapters are like really quick and short, and there's mostly just story and dialogue. There's like very little diving and exploring, actually, that I found out, which is really interesting. But the game is not really about a story. The main bulk of the game is the diving. You can either dive solo or do like a dive online with other people. And it's really interesting. Like a lot of the story chapters are locked behind some achievements. Like chapter 2-1, to unlock that, you had to like scan 500 fish. And for chapter 2-2, you had to scan 1,000 fish, and then the next one 2,000 fish, which seems like a lot, but actually, once you go like out on dives, there's entire schools of fish that are like swimming around, and like once you can do like a bulk scan to where you hold down the L and it just scans the entire bundle of them, and you can grab like 20, 30, 40 fish in just like one scan, in like one sweep. So those numbers, you can get up to them like pretty quickly, so it's not too bad. So yeah, the main focus on the game is, just exploring and discovering species, and just, just slowly going through and exploring these maps. And this actually works in a different way than the earlier Endless Ocean games, to where like in the earlier games, you had this map and you get to like dive in different areas, and different areas have different fish and this and that. But in this game, there's only one map that you get to dive into and explore. And when you do like a new dive, when you start a new dive, it's like randomly generated, so it's like everything is different, and there's like new areas to explore every time you dive in, which is really interesting. It's a different way of doing things, which I actually like, because you don't have to deal with having to progress in a linear fashion, discovering new areas like in the previous games. But when I jumped into the online mode, it works a little bit different, to where you only get 30 minutes to explore that one map. But it actually works because with like all the divers working together, you get to like reveal the map all at the same time, and you get to like make discoveries together. And like there's missions that you got sent from HQ, to where like, oh, there's some mysterious creature nearby that needs to be scanned, or there's weird certain fish that have like this weird bioluminescence that you must explore and discover. And you get like sent different missions at random times, and everyone that's diving can work together. Like everyone jumps into the map at different points. So you like the one dive I did, you actually got to reveal almost the entire map like fairly quickly, like in 20-25 minutes. So it works. And if we get people that are like that really know how to explore and like really get out there, they actually knock out missions pretty quickly, which I was surprised. I started doing a solo dive, and the map's actually pretty big. I've dove in there like a couple times, and I'm still like maybe only 30% explored after just a couple hours, just doing it solo. The cool thing is that if you do a solo dive, you can jump back into the same map, and you can like continue exploring the same map. Or if you want, you can start a new dive and explore a new map. And once you're exploring, there's like different areas to find. There's like sunken ships, there's caves, there's like ruins. And it was pretty cool. It's like, if you go like to the ruins area, you can actually find prehistoric fish. If you can read about sea creatures that existed in like the Jurassic era, or just from ancient times. And it's pretty cool finding out about them. There's also like mystical creatures and like creatures that don't really exist. I saw like this weird mother whale or whatever it was called, and I was like, oh, this looks interesting. And I tried to Google it, and it turns out it didn't exist. It's just like something that was created for the game, which is pretty cool that there's these like rare legendary creatures that are unique to the game. Adds a layer of fun. There's also treasures to find, and there's a whole bunch of like tiny treasures like bottles, coins, figurines, I found a telescope, just a whole bunch of random stuff. And there's also these things called the 99 something. There's like 99 mystical treasures that are all spread out to find. And one of the first things you find in story mode is this stone tablet that has like these 99 squares on it, and you get to uncover them as you discover these 99 treasures. Which really, I guess this whole game is like a big collectathon, where both you gotta find like all these treasures and you gotta like find all these fish. I believe there's like 500 or 600 different species of fish. It kind of sounds like a lot, but like after doing a couple dives this morning and yesterday, I already got like maybe 200 or close to 300 species I've already found. So I don't know, I feel like it might go quick, or maybe it might not. They also have like different events going on. Like from the first event happens from like the 10th to the 13th of this month, where if you play during that time, you have like a higher chance of finding like certain mystical creatures, which is pretty cool to do stuff like that. I don't know if it's gonna be like a live service game to where like they're gonna update it with new species periodically, which I hope that's the case, because that would be pretty cool. I feel like I'll play this game for like another couple days or another couple weeks, and then maybe I'll get tired, or I'll like get tired of trying to find the last few remaining treasures or fish. Oh, but the cool thing is, when you do play online, if you do find a treasure, you have the ability to tag it, and when you tag it, like everyone else can see it on the map. So I guess that would be a pretty cool way to find like the rest of the treasures if you're having trouble. Just like go in an online dive and have other players, tag treasures, and just go through them, and hopefully you'll find the treasures you need. So yeah, the online play is actually pretty cool. It's a different experience. I feel like doing solo, I can just relax and explore at a leisurely pace and just take my time. And the music is also really good. It's like really nice and relaxing. But also most of the time there is no music, and you just hear like the sounds of the ocean, and you might hear like a whale in the distance, and like it's very cool and immersive, and you just hear like all the bubbles and the the sounds from your air tank. Oh, but like the one thing that I love about this game that it's different from previous games is that you don't have to worry about air at all. You just dive as much as you want, explore, and just relax and not have to ever worry about air or like running out, which is pretty cool. I'm glad they did that. So, let's see, what else is there to tell? I think that's pretty much it, yeah. If you're looking for a game that has like a lot of, I guess, gameplay to it, where like you have clear objectives and stuff like other diving games, you're not going to find it here. This was made to be like a casual game. It like in the Wii era, it was created for the casual players that just want to have a nice relaxing diving experience, and this continues on here. So if this sounds like your cup of tea, then yeah, totally go for it. And if you feel like it's not the kind of experience you're looking for, there's no challenge here. It's not a challenge game. It's not supposed to be. So if that's not what you're looking for, then you're not gonna find it here. If that's what you're looking for, I mean. So yeah, if this sounds like it's up your alley, then yeah, I would totally recommend it. I've been having a lot of fun with it. Very relaxing time. I got like the couple times that I played it, I got really hooked on it. I feel like keep playing it and keep exploring. And yeah, I can't wait to hop back into it. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about it. So thank you so much for hearing me out. And let's get back to the studio with Yemmy.
Thank you for that special report, Kalas, aka JustKalas, twitch.tv/JustKalas. Thank you so much for giving us that report on Endless Ocean Luminous. Really appreciate that. Let's go ahead and move on to the next part of the show, which is what was announced at that game showcase. All right. First up, we have a star. I'm sorry. Should I talk about what the show was? Yes. So this past week, Xbox did an Xbox at ID showcase. Is that what they called it, right? Essentially, where they talk about a bunch of indie games that are coming to the system, coming to game. A lot of these games are coming to Game Pass too. Um, they just shed some light on some games, kind of like the indie showcases, you know. The first game to talk about is a game called Astor Blade of the Monolith. This is like a third-person action adventure game. It's like a very colorful world. It almost reminds me of like the Breath of the Wild graphics a little bit. Maybe more like No Man's Sky. Not really sure. I don't really want to say. But or you know what? It really does remind me of Darksiders a little bit with the art style. But anyway, you play as like this guy in a red hoodie, and you use a sword to beat up like various creatures. Some of them look robotic, some of them look more organic. It looks like there's some bosses in there as well. But that seems to be the gist of it. So a Star Blade of the Monolith is coming out on May 30th, and that looks pretty good. I would say that looks pretty good. Next up, 33 Immortals got another trailer. I talked about this game already, where it's a bunch of people in like a top-down style, helping out in dungeons and stuff like that, helping each other in dungeons. I mean, you know, it looks fine. The graphic style is very cartoony. You know, like I said, it seems fine. I don't know if I'm gonna grab it myself, but there's a beta coming on May 24th. You need to sign up at 33immortals.com. This one's also coming to Game Pass, I'm pretty sure. Next up, Pal World announced that there are new pals coming to the game. There's like a karate nunchuck turtle. There's also some sort of like peacock type creature. There is a ninja type creature with a hat. There's like a big long-necked reptile with a mushroom for a head, like a mushroom cap for a head. Actually, that might have already been the game. I'm not sure, actually. No, that is new. That is new. So those new characters will be coming to the PAL world in summer, they said. Summer 2024, so it's not too far away. We also have Centum, the official announcement trailer. Centum. So this is like a 8-bit point-and-click game, which is kind of cool looking. Like it's definitely something different that you don't normally see. Last year we got that Paper World game or whatever it's called, book thief or whatever. This one is definitely a lot different from that. It looks like there's a lot more, I don't know, kind of avant-garde stuff going on right now. Kind of also looks like it's going to be a bit of a horror game as well. Lots of really weird creature design and character designs in there. Actually kind of interested in that, and this is coming to in summer of 2024, coming to Xbox and Windows PC. I'm not sure if it's coming to other places as well, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. The Life is Strange devs have a new game called Lost Records Bloom and Rage, which is kind of like a 90s styled game adventure coming from the same people who did the other Life is Strange games, like I said before. Looks like they have upped their graphical quality, thank God. The games are starting to get a bit stale with the presentation of them. So this is coming late 2024. Not really much shown off about the game other than seems like there's some sort of like maybe supernatural thing happening in the background. In the press release, they said, as summer comes to an end, so does their friendship. The downward spiral culminates in an unexplainable event that makes them promise to never see each other again. Now, 27 years later, fate reunites them to confront a long-buried secret left behind in 1995. So, seems kind of interesting, and it's probably the first Life is Strange type game that I've been interested in since, like, the original Life is Strange at this point. So there you go. Another game called Key Locker was announced as well. This one, what was this one? This one was another like pixel art kind of game. It's like it almost reminds. It actually is very similar to that rhythm game, Crypt of the Necrodancer. But it's got like more of a sci-fi look to it. It almost looks like how you would you would like play a mini game inside of a computer, like that at times, which is kind of a cool aesthetic. There's a lot of neon colors in there and some really interesting character designs as well. Being like a turn-based game, I don't know how. I don't know if I'll want to play this myself, just because I'm not super big in the turn-based for the most part. I mean, I do like those kinds of games at times, but they got to be really specific for me to like them. So we'll see about this one. Maybe I'll give it a try if it does come to Xbox Game Pass. But this is coming in summer of 24 as well. Game called Stampede Racing Royale was revealed. Looks like a free-to-play kart racing game with probably plenty of microtransactions. But it's got like the Mario Kart flair where you can pick up items and stuff like that. It looks like it's almost like it is a battle royale. So it's a battle royale as well. So the top 3 players get prizes and everyone else kind of doesn't get anything. But this is coming to Xbox Game Preview. So that means it's probably a paid game, so it's not free to play. This is coming to Xbox Game Preview sometime in summer. Jackbox revealed the Naughty Pack, which, I think a lot of us who play, or who have played Jackbox, knows that things can get a bit spicy at times, like the pictures you draw and the things that you say. But this one seems to be pretty much focused on the more spicy side of Jackbox games. They didn't show anything about the game, like what was going to be included, but the new game is called Jackbox Naughty Pack, and that's coming in 2024. Times and Galaxy. This looks like another point-and-click game. Where you are a little robot kind of going on some sort of adventure, possibly learning about the different species out there. This is coming in June 2024. Sulfur is coming, and I believe this is already available on PC, but it's officially coming to Xbox. This is a first-person shooter. I believe it's roguelite, if I'm not mistaken. You just fight a bunch of enemies. There's a story intertwined in there as well. Has a pretty nice art style to it. Sulfur is coming in. Well, I guess they didn't say when it was coming. It's just coming to Xbox, it says. And like I said, I don't know if it's already on Steam or something like that, but it looks pretty cool if you want to check that out. Farah the Sundred Tribes. This is a game that it's kind of like Monster Hunter, where you fight monsters to gather resources and stuff like that. But it's also a city management game as well, where everything that you gather from the world is put into the town, essentially. So you're on a floating. You live in like a floating village, and then you go down to the earth below, or whatever it is below, to take out the monsters, steal their eggs and whatever. You can also tame the monsters as well when you hatch them. This is coming in 2024 as well. Summer. Tales of Iron 2 got a gameplay trailer, which looks, just as good as the last one, even better, I would say. This one focused more on the new enemies that you're going to be facing, including the bat-type enemies, like rat-ish type enemies as well. It looks great. I can't wait to check this out. This is coming this year as well. And I really loved the first game enough to put it on my top 10 list the year that it came out. And this one's looking pretty good. I can't complain. Looks really good. Another game called Hangry is coming out. Not much shown off about this one other than you seem to be punching various enemies to, I guess, harvest their meat and bring back to your sci-fi themed diner. That's what it seems like to me. But yeah, that is that. Promise Mascot Agency. This was announced at the show as well. It's got kind of like an anime aesthetic on it, I suppose you could say. I don't really know what this one's really about. Explore a mysterious town. Seems to be some sort of open world type game. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Also, Commandos Origins. Legendary real-time tactics franchise returns. Commandos Origins brings you back to the very first missions of the infamous World War II special unit. Take control of Green Beret, Sapper, and company, and learn how they originally met. This will have more than 10 missions from the barren Arctic to the African desert. So this looks okay. I'm not going to say it looks amazing, but it looks okay. It kind of reminds me of Desperados, I guess you could say. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. All You Need Is Help. This was a standout from the show, coming from Pixel Junk, one of my favorite indie creators, devs out there. This one seems to be some sort of co-op puzzle game where you and whoever else are different shapes, and you need to try and get them all to the goal, and then align yourselves properly at the end of it all. It had a fun theme song to it. And All You Need Is Help. That's coming in fall of 2024. Looks pretty good. Can't complain. Dungeons of Hinterberg is coming out on July 18th. This is a kind of like a cel-shaded graphics style kind of game where you have the ability to... it kind of reminded me a bit of Portal, except without the portal gun, where you have like various gadgets at your disposal to get through these puzzles. So there's like a green blob you could spawn. There's a electrical orb. There's probably more things that we didn't see in the trailer, but that seems to be the main gist of it, is just solving puzzles with the various gizmos and stuff that you have at your disposal. The Triple I was there as well. They had like a sizzle reel of games, which I'm not going to sit here and talk about the sizzle reel because it's really not anything too special. We saw it all at the Triple I Interactive event, so it's nice to see them there because it does put more eyes on them. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, we already saw it, so what am I gonna do? Applaud them even more. Vampire Survivors. I think this is the last thing, right? No, there's one more thing after this. So Vampire Survivors, they detailed the new update that they're getting that's adding in the characters from Contra. They also have some new, mine cart mode or whatever. They also revamped the running animations, I guess. That update is up right now. And then, of course, as I said before, the Contra characters are going to be there as well. You'll be able to play as characters with guns. And then finally, Humanity, the game that came out last year for the PS5 and PSVR 2, is officially launching on Xbox on May 30th. If you haven't played this one, or if you don't know what this one's all about, you essentially guide the lemmings, the people, to the goal. And there's various things you need to do along the way, various traps and stuff you need to avoid. And you play as this cute little dog. And I thought it was a great experience. I thought it was I thought it was a very unique puzzle game, along with just kind of being it's a very vibe kind of game as well. So if you want to check that out, it's already available on PlayStation if you want to check it out there, but it is coming to Xbox on May 30th. And there you go. I think that about wraps it up. I was very pleased with this. I don't think it was the best thing ever, but I was pretty happy about what they showed off. Probably give it a C+. It was kind of nothing like too eye popping, but I thought it was good. I thought it was decent, and I don't think that it doesn't rival some of the other stuff we've seen this year already. But it's some good stuff. It's some good stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to what's in the news. Okay. It's another week, another controversy, right? Although there's been two this week. Major controversy, I guess you would say. I don't know, how controversial is it really? I guess that's up for you to decide. But anyway, people are annoyed that Stellar Blade's Day 1 patch changed some outfits to be less revealing for the main character, Eve. I talked about Stellar Blade last week. I did not get back to playing it this week because I was playing Other Crab's Treasure. I will probably get back to Stellar Blade this coming week. I've had a lot of fun with it so far. Personally, I really don't care that much that they changed one or two things about a couple costumes. You know, the main thing is like, okay, they covered up some of the cleavage on this one, or they covered up the, you know, some they changed this here and there about a few things, and obviously like. Is it censorship? Is it not? Like, that's the big debate right now is, you know, oh, it's censorship and we can't accept any censorship at all. But the funny thing is like there's still costumes that are like practically naked, you know, character design. There's a bikini in there. There's one where you can like look up her skirt while she's climbing ladders and stuff. I mean, there's still plenty of very revealing outfits in here. And if your only reason for buying this game is to see the skimpy outfits and try and put her in the least amount of clothing possible, then you might have your priorities in the wrong place here. One of the developers for the game did come out and say that the final costumes are what we wanted to show you is indeed the costumes in the patch. However, this may not satisfy or convince our users. So essentially, I mean, a lot of people are saying like Sony went in and said, "Hey, you gotta change this. You gotta change this. You gotta change this." But if Sony went in there and said, "Hey, you have to change this stuff. You have to, you know, make her less revealing," you know, all the outfits would have been changed. Most of the outfits would have been changed. That's my thing about this whole quote unquote controversy. Is like, I get it. You don't want censorship at all in your games, but this seems pretty cut and dry that like the developers just had some design changes that they wanted to do to these outfits, because there are still plenty of outfits in the game that are so revealing it almost feels like you're playing a hentai game at times. You know, it's just one of those things. It's like if it was Sony, they would have had them change every single outfit, mostly every single outfit in the game, and they didn't. But of course, it's not going to satisfy people. They're going to still claim that this is censorship or blah, 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 blah. I personally don't really care. If the game is good and fun, it doesn't really matter if you're seeing boobs and ass on in the game. I don't think so. You can literally Google Rule 34 if you really want Eve naked or as naked as she can be. You can literally go on Pornhub and see boobs and ass all day long if you really want to. Why do we need to complain about not enough cleavage in this for this one outfit in this video game or a couple outfits in this video game? It just makes no sense. And I know what what the people will say if you disagree with them. They'll say that, you know, it's not the cleavage that matters, it's changing the outfit that matters. It's censoring the boobs and tits and ass, whatever. This is, whatever. So these, people went on to change.org and they put a change.org petition on there, which is very strange. And then they were going around on Twitter doing hashtag Free Stellar Blade. And of course, there's like a ton of people who are butthurt on Twitter about this, these slight outfit changes. And so, every Sony post that Sony does or PlayStation does on Twitter, there's hundreds of comments, just them saying like, "Oh, you should uncensor this game, uncensor this game, uncensor this game." I don't think the game is censored almost at all. Like, are you kidding me? The amount of blood and gore in this game, the crazy enemy designs that are, naked enemies running around. I mean, you don't see their balls and shit, but still, they're naked enemies. I mean, Eve is running around in these. You can make her run around in these skimpy outfits. You can have her wearing no outfit at all if you so desire. Like, if the game was truly being censored, don't you think that they would have censored those things priority first, right? But they didn't. The modifications to these outfits, these couple of modifications, don't seem to be censorship. They just seem to be design choices. And I'm going to stand by that until an official report comes out otherwise. And of course, this is not me being like a Sony pony or something like that either. Like, I genuinely feel like this is just the developer's choice. This is what they wanted to do with these costumes. And sure, did they change? And is that going to disappoint people? Of course, it's going to disappoint people because they want the sexiest appearance of Eve that they can, and maybe one of these outfits was their favorite outfit, and now they can't enjoy it as much because they added in an undershirt that covers up her boobs, or they added in some leggings so that her ass isn't her ass cheeks aren't out in the wind. It's just, but it's one of those things once again where it's like, are you playing the video game to jerk off, or are you playing the video game to have a good time? Because if you're having those two things can correlate, of course. But my main thing is, when I'm playing a video game, I want to have an enjoyable time, and that's what Stellar Blade gives you. It's not giving you a pornographic experience. It's giving you a general good time experience. And of course, you can make the argument, of course, oh, well, I'm not enjoying the game as much because they changed the outfits. But that would be bullshit. You would be bullshitting if you said that the couple of outfit changes make you not enjoy the game anymore. Because you have so many other options, one, and two, the main crux of the game is the combat and the exploration, and you're sitting here complaining on Twitter, thousands of posts on Twitter saying, because they changed an outfit or two, I cannot play this game anymore. Please. And I'm sure maybe we'll have someone comment in the comments, and if you do have a different opinion, please let me know. I'm always open to other people's perspectives, so I don't want to say like you can't tell me otherwise. Obviously, I would love to have a conversation about it if we're being civil. But for the most part, anything that I see on Twitter or anything like that, it's usually toxic and just people just really just bashing each other for no reason. And I think that I think that the whole outfit debacle for this game is just silly, honestly. And like, out of all the things to be upset about, I think this is the least of your concerns. It's not like they toned down the jiggle physics on her boobs and butt. It's not like they toned down, 90% of the costumes in here are still very revealing. So it's not like they toned any of that stuff down. And like I said before, just go on to fucking Rule 34 or Pornhub if you want to see, ass, tits, vagina, anything. You don't need to see that in the video game. That's not what the game is made for. The game is not made for you to play with one hand. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Stellar Blade came out on Twitter and said, thanks to all of our Stellar Blade fans for your passion and feedback. Stay tuned for updates. So maybe they'll hear the criticism and they'll revert some of the outfits back to the way they were. And if they do that, then we know 100% for sure that it wasn't Sony putting their hands into the pie, because guess what? Sony would not let them turn it back no matter what. So there you go. All right, let's talk about the other controversy this week, which is not silly, I would say. There are plenty of valid criticisms about this decision, but of course, let's go over it here. Helldivers 2 on the PC. Players are now being required. I was about to say forced, which I guess you are being forced technically, but it's now required for you to make a PSN account if you want to play the game. Now, some eagle-eyed users have pointed out that the game has always said that you need a PSN account to play the game. It was on Steam beforehand and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, sure, that is true. They did have a notice saying, the PSN account was required. But it did come out recently that the Steam description for the post was actually changed recently, where it said you may have to, or it said something to the effect of users may have to have a PSN account to play online, or something like that. But now it says you need a PSN account to play the game. So there was a change there. The thing is, though, the game has already been out for since February, so a couple months now, and people have been playing the game without a PSN account, no problem. Now, the reason why I think that they're finally enforcing this thing is, one, I don't think it was working before, that was causing crashes or something like that, so they didn't implement it right away. But two, I believe this is also to help with the problems that people are having. Me personally, I do have this problem as well, where you can't add people as friends on there. It just won't work. So I think this is also a way to fix that as well. Now, that's not me saying like, oh, this is a great idea now because it's fixing this problem that people are having. But I will say at least there's some that could be the reason behind it, right? The other reason is probably is obviously the more cynical one, where it's like, well, PlayStation just wants to have more user base. They want to have more people sign up for their service. Now, you don't need to have like PlayStation Plus or anything like that to play the game online on PC or the game at all on PC, but you do need to at least make a PlayStation account. In a statement, they said, due to technical issues at the launch of Helldivers 2, we allowed the linking requirements for Steam accounts to a PlayStation Network account to be temporarily optional. That grace period will now expire. So May 6th, which is this next week, or this coming week, any new players will need to link a Steam account and a PSN to their PSN accounts. Existing players will have a little longer to get this all sorted. The mandatory PSN login will appear for them starting May 30th. And they will need to link their accounts by the 4th of June in order to keep playing the game, I guess. And yeah, there's a lot of people out there justifying this, of course. A lot of people going around with that photo of, or that picture of like the Steam, the Steam store page said, that it was required the entire time, right? But the thing about PC is that, well, the thing about Steam in general is that there are a lot of games that require you to have like an Origin account or an EA account or a Ubisoft account to play a game, or use not just use the Steam part, the Steam software, but a third-party software like the official EA app or something like that to launch a game. Those games get a lot of negative reviews because people don't want that stuff on their, all that stuff on their PC. Me personally, I only have Epic Game Store and Steam and the Xbox Game Pass app on my PC right now. On my last PC, it was bogging me down so much. I had Origin launcher, I had an EA Play launcher, I had the Xbox launcher, I had the Steam, I had Epic Store, I had GOG. I do have GOG right now too. GOG, I had, the Amazon Game Player, I had the Google Play, and it's like all that stuff is just like so much crap on your computer. It just, you don't need it all. So games that don't require that stuff on Steam, a lot of people just, maybe you just get used to it, not having to use other third-party software. But this was obviously, since the beginning, going to cause a lot of discourse amongst PC players, because now, instead of just loading up the game and be able to play, now you need to make make a PSN account, and now you need to, make sure that the PlayStation Network is online, and now you need to log in through the PlayStation Network, and blah, 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 blah. Now it adds a bunch of stuff to the mix that you didn't have to deal with before. And obviously people, maybe they're going a little bit too far with this. There is a bunch of, there's like 62, what was the exact number? 62,000 negative reviews in one day for the game, which is 13% of all reviews for the game. People changed their positive review to a negative review. A lot of them editing it to say like, hey, negative because of this. And if you look at the graph of the reviews, it's pretty apparent, when it goes into the deep red, because the red line is just like 5 times long, maybe even more, 10 times longer than the original line. And the game had been getting pretty it got positive reviews since it came out. The reason why we bought it on Steam, not only because my significant other wanted to play the game on PC, but because the reviews on Steam were mostly positive, and now they're mixed, which is unfortunate to see because, this is, Helldivers 2, it was an event when it came out. People are still playing it, obviously, but it was a big event. People love this game. It's very bombastic. It's crazy. The devs behind it are very passionate. And now, because of this change, I guess you could say, people have taken to Steam to express their grievances, of course. And, people who only play on PlayStation probably won't get it. They'll say that, this is unhinged, or this is bizarre, or this is crazy, right? And I'm sure there's a couple of fringe people out there who are going a bit too far with this, but for the most part, it's sound. It's a sound thing to be annoyed by this. It's a sound thing to be disappointed by this, because you've already been playing the game for 2 months without having to make your PSN account. I have a PSN account, so this is not going to affect me, but there's a lot of people who it's going to affect. And I mean, I'm sure that most people are not, it's not a foreign idea to be like, okay, you need an Xbox account to play Xbox games, or you need an Epic Store account to play your Epic Store games. Like, it's not a foreign idea for these people at all, but a majority of people on Steam in PC gaming would rather buy the game on Steam and then be able to play the game without a separate launcher or a separate login or whatever, right? It was confirmed that the Ghost of Tsushima PC port will not need a PSN account officially, so that's a good thing. They said that actually, I'm sorry, I misread there. The single player for Ghost of Tsushima will not require a PSN account, but if you want to play the multiplayer for it, the what's it called? The multiplayer mode, I forget what it's called right now. You will need a PSN account to do that as well. So it's pretty crazy. One of the developers did come out and make a statement on Discord, but essentially saying that it wasn't their decision, it was PlayStation's decision, right? Which makes sense, obviously. It's a game under the PlayStation banner. They're gonna probably have the final say in how people connect to it, but yeah. And yeah, there's people who are wild on both ends of the gaming spectrum too. Like the people who mostly play on console are saying that like PC gamers are the worst group of gaming fans, so they should stop making PlayStation should stop making games for them. And then on the other side, there's toxic behavior on both sides of this. Don't worry. For me personally, like I said before, it's not going to affect me too much, but I do understand where the discourse comes from. There's a lot of people blind to the fact that like, oh, why is this causing so much discord? I don't understand. Well, maybe see it from the other person's perspective a little bit. Just like with the Stellar Blade stuff. Maybe see it from was it Stellar Blade? Whatever I was talking about before. Maybe just see it from a different perspective. I think that would be a good idea. Imagine yourself being a PC only player and having to make a PlayStation account. And you've never had to make a PlayStation account before. You've played other games on Steam that are PlayStation games and haven't had to make a PlayStation account, and now all of a sudden you have to make a PlayStation account to play a game that you've been playing for months on end. I mean, like I said before too, axe out the entire thing where it's like, oh, it said that you needed to have one, in the Steam description at the beginning. I don't think that really matters for the most part. Like, sure, it does matter a little bit, but I mean that pretty much just covers Sony legally. Honestly, at this point, I think they should have just let it be. They definitely should have let it be, and this whole thing could have been avoided. But unfortunately, here we are. All right, Nintendo has essentially gone to war with the Yuzu modding or Switch emulator. Nintendo shut down the emulator Yuzu. The original open source creator of Yuzu had to take down their Yuzu stuff, and now it's been reported that Nintendo has wiped out a total of 8,535 Yuzu repositories via GitHub in one fell swoop. Reported by Eurogamer and Torrent Freak, Nintendo had filed a DMCA notice to GitHub earlier this week targeting Yuzu repositories that it states provide access to the Yuzu emulator or code based on the Yuzu emulator, which legally circumvents Nintendo's technological protection measures and runs illegal copies of Nintendo Switch games. GitHub explained that because the network was made up of more than 100 repositories, in which, if not all of them, had the content in them, it had made the decision to nuke almost 8,500 repositories, which is pretty crazy. All the people who owned the repositories were contacted by GitHub and shown the DMCA notice. So it seems like Nintendo is back to being aggressive with their campaigns against emulators and copyright and stuff like that. Hopefully they don't go too far back and start taking down YouTube videos of their video games again. That would be really backwards. But this is unfortunate. There's a lot of people who use these Switch emulators for good. A lot of these people also own copies of the game already, and they want to mod the game. There's plenty of YouTubers and Twitch streamers out there who they own a physical copy of the game. They own, Tears of the Kingdom or Super Smash Brothers or whatever, and they want to have a little bit more fun with it. Maybe I don't know, just mess it up. I personally don't use a lot of mods and stuff. I don't use emulators at all. I play all my stuff on original hardware. That's just a me thing, though. That's not me saying like, oh, you can't because I like to do original hardware. No, that's me saying like, this is what I do. You can do what you want to do. I don't really care. But Nintendo does care. So if you already have the Yuzu emulator on your computer or whatever, you're fine because, as long as you don't go online and spread the link or the code or the files, I guess you really won't matter. But at this point, if you are a person who was looking for the Yuzu emulator or thinking about doing it, your chance is most likely gone at this point. And it's unfortunate also because a lot of people who are working on these emulations and stuff like that, they're very talented. Obviously working with the hardware and with the coding and stuff like that, it's very hard stuff to do. And sure, maybe it's not 100% legal, but yeah, I don't think any of these I don't think any of these sites were having you pay for the emulation service, which I think was the workaround for a lot of other emulators out there. So them taking down the free version of this emulator is a bit concerning, but yeah, we'll see what happens in the future. Okay, Xbox Games Showcase has been confirmed for June 9th at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Seems like this is going to be during the Summer Games Fest, I'm pretty sure, or around it at least. People are saying that well, actually, it's already been confirmed that the show afterwards is going to be a Call of Duty themed direct immediately following the Xbox Showcase. So I'm guessing they're going to reveal the next game, which is most likely going to be... I'm thinking it's a Black Ops game, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. In a press release, they said this is going to be our first showcase featuring games from our portfolio of studios across Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda, and Xbox Game Studios, in addition to titles from third-party partners. Adding all those studios to your portfolio, quote-unquote, does not make the games 100% yours yet. A lot of these games they're showing off were probably already in development, and now they just put the Xbox banner on, but that's neither here nor there. So if you want to check that out, I'm sure that we are going to be seeing the Indiana Jones game, probably obviously the next Call of Duty I think we're going to see, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of other things to watch out for as well. In the same vein of things, the THQ Nordic Showcase is coming out around August 2nd, 2024. The premiere will start at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, if you want to check that out. I liked the THQ Nordic Showcase last year. This year I'm sure will be fine. They already said that they were going to be showing off Gothic and Titan Quest 2. There's a few other things that they haven't talked about yet. They're teasing, so that'll be pretty cool to see. If you like THQ's games, maybe check this out. I usually enjoy their shows. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. All right, some more concerning news. 2 studios have been shut down by Take-Two, who just rebought Rockstar, I believe, right? Yeah, they just rebought. They just rebought Gearbox. That's right, they just rebought Gearbox. Take-Two shut down Roll7, who is an amazing studio, who worked on the Ollie Ollie series, including the latest Ollie Ollie World, which was my game of the year 2 years ago. Crazy. And Rollerdrome was recently released by them, which is also a very cool and unique game. They also shut down Intercept Games, famous for this Kerbal Space Program series, which is absolutely crazy because that is a beloved long-running series. Roll7 will close and offer severance agreements to staff. Meanwhile, a notice has been filed with the Washington State Employment Security Department to close a Seattle office where Intercept Games is based. Both developers were under the Private Division label, which is owned by Take-Two, of course. And it's... First things first...
It's annoying, but more importantly, these are two very talented studios that they are just shutting down without a second thought. I'm gonna make this argument once again, and I'm getting pissed off here because it's just becoming way too much now. Like this, I mean, it's been way too much for a while, but like, fuck me, man. You have GTA 6 coming out either this year, next year, or whatever. That's gonna make billions of dollars. Can you not just like hold off a year or so while the hype builds and the game is released and you make those guaranteed billions of dollars? You're closing down studios that are beloved, that do great work, that have really good long careers in the industry, and you're just shutting them down for what? To save a couple fucking dollars? And the other thing is, like, you're shutting down the studio. So in this case, they can't be sold off. Or maybe they probably didn't even try to sell them off. They just said, okay, let's close them. And these same people are probably going to be either put into different studios or put on projects that they don't want to work on, or that they're not like, it's not like their vision to work on it, right? Like, hey, you guys now go work on GTA 6. Kind of like how Toys for Bob was put on, Call of Duty Warzone, right? It's just, it's a disgrace to gaming at this point. It really fucking is. It's a disgrace to gaming as a whole, and it just annoys me so much. It really does. And to see Roll 7 be shut down, a fantastic developer that has a good repertoire of games to be just shut down, is just so stupid. And having the Kerbal Space Program people be shut down is also another really stupid decision. Like, a beloved game. Kerbal Space Program is a beloved game. It's been around since the Xbox 360 era. They released the Kerbal Space Program 2, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and it was a well-selling game. It doesn't make any sense. And maybe these companies shouldn't be spending millions of dollars buying other studios like Gearbox if they can't support the studios that they already have, the people that they already have. Something's got to be done. At this point, I'm out of ideas. In other news, similar news, the developers behind Deliver Us the Moon and Deliver Us Mars, Kyokin is the name of the studio, Kyokin Interactive. They have laid off their entire team due to a lack of publishing options. Co-founder and CEO Cohen Dietman warned last month that this might be the case following the frosty reception many smaller studios seeking funding received at this year's Game Developers Conference. Cohen and his brother and the studio's managing director, Paul Dietman, shared the sad news on Twitter, doing what they could to ensure affected staff would find somewhere else to land. They said, "Heartbroken, we've had to lay off our team at Kyokin because nothing substantial materialized after our visit to GDC. We've unfortunately exhausted all possible options for publishing, work for hire, and co-development." Which is awful as well. GDC is supposed to be like this big gaming convention where you can get your games funded and you can go there and people can see what you're working on. Like, people inside this company, these big studios, publishing companies can see what you're working on. And they had a giant section for AI this year. And it's just so disheartening to know that those greedy motherfuckers at the AAA and AA publishing studios are just rubbing their hands thinking about how much money having an AI in the working on a game would save. And it's just sickening. The Netherlands developer named Paladin, who worked on the game Good Job, which came out in 2020, has announced that they've closed the studio after 19 years of working. They partnered with Nintendo a couple times in the past, but they also worked with Apple Arcade, Netflix, and Bandai Namco on franchises like Cut the Rope, Tamagotchi, and Katamari as well. They said in a press release, going further with the current outlook would have been an irresponsible decision that would have likely caused insolvency. We have therefore taken this step to ensure a proper winding down where all employees are given proper severance and studio remains debt-free. It's unfortunate. I mean, at least this one's, I guess... I mean, I don't want to say better because it's not a competition, but this is a better way to do it than, you know, just completely shutting down a studio with a snap of a finger, you know. But they began working on games back in 2005. At their peak, they had 55 people working on games. They've had this development studio has had a good list of games as well. What you gonna do? I have nothing else to say. Let's switch it up here. Lego Fortnite has announced the Star Wars Rebel Adventure update for May the 4th. So this is essentially them just adding all of the Star Wars characters to the Lego version of the game. So you can play as Lego Chewbacca, Lego Darth Vader, Lego Stormtroopers, Lego Luke, Leia, Han, Rey, C-3PO, etc. There's also a new Rebel Village where you can help rebels survive by building up the village and use tools like the lightsaber, the DL-44 blaster, and thermal detonators to deal with foes that you may encounter. Which is funny because that sounds like what the original game was, a tower defense mode, essentially. Which is really funny. In my opinion, that's pretty funny that they've kind of reverted back to what the original game was. There's also a new Lego Pass for the Rebel Adventure inspired by Tatooine and Mos Eisley Blue Milk Bar Bundle. So essentially this is just a bunch of different buildings that you can get throughout the Season Pass. You can get instant access to Chewbacca if you spend 1,400 V-Bucks. Woo-wee! So if you're a Star Wars fan and you like Fortnite, maybe check this out. Finally, for today's news, we have Balatro, and they have merchandise now. There are 2 different t-shirts and a couple of different hoodies and a few mugs here as well. The t-shirt, the basic one, has the Jimbo Joker on there. So if you know what the pretty much the logo of the game is, like that Joker face, and that's on the shirt. There's a men's and women's version, and then there's like a smaller version of the logo in the right-hand corner. But on the back is where like you have the Joker card, and it says, "I'm literally a fool. What's your excuse?" on it, which is kind of cute. The hoodies, one of them just has the Balatro name on it. The other one has the Wheel of Fortune tarot card. And then the last one has the banana on it. If you can't handle me at my gross Michael, you don't deserve me at my Cavendish, which are 2 different Joker cards that do kind of the opposite thing. The mugs, there's the Balatro logo mug, there's the Nope mug, and the 5 of a Kind mug. And it's all kind of cool. I don't know. I bought a shirt, but yeah, looks nice. All right, let's head on into the final part of the show, which is what's coming soon. As we all know at this point, or we should know, Steam World Heist 2 is coming out this year, and on the Steam World Games page, they showed off a breakdown, a gameplay deep dive for the game, and honestly, it doesn't look that different from Steam World Heist 1, other than there's new weapons to use, new cover to use, new environmental hazards. Obviously, the whole vibe of the game is different too, with the pirate theme instead of it being a sci-fi theme. You know, I mean, obviously it's still sci-fi, but it's not like spaceship themed anymore. And then they also went over the open world a little bit. Well, actually, I don't think they did. Actually, I think they didn't show off like any of the open world at all. But I feel like it's going to kind of be like maybe a randomly generated, like you run into a ship and you go and you board them kind of thing. They showed off the different enemy types as well. So there's like the bone guys who die in like one hit, but in hordes can be a bit of a problem. There's like Royal Navy, I guess you could say. Yeah, there's a couple of different enemy types that they showed off briefly. Yeah, the weapons look really good. I mean, obviously they're a little bit similar to what we have already seen, but they also have a lot of differences to them as well. If you want to check out the whole thing, it's on SteamWorld Games' YouTube channel. I think it's going to be a great time. I think they fleshed it out a little bit more with some of the character attributes and stuff like that, all the different weapons that you can use, and all the different things that they've done to the game as well. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. And also, you kind of saw it on the side in a few little things. They did show the spine from Steam Powered Giraffe standing in a spot, and then you can also see Rabbit from Steam Powered Giraffe playing the guitar at one point as well, very briefly. Her new design in there, the old spine design. We haven't seen Zero yet, but I'm sure that they will. I don't know if they'll show the whole band off or not, but we'll see him eventually. Zero's the newest member of Steam Powered Giraffe. So yeah, should be pretty cool. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing, and maybe you do too. Senua's Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. I apologize. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 is around the corner. On May 21st, it's coming out. And in preparation for that, they showed off all the different specs you need for your PC if you're going to play it on PC. I personally am going to try and play it on PC. Graphics presets for the recommended settings, high at 1440p. They recommend an Intel i7 or a Ryzen 5, an NVIDIA RTX 3080, an AMD RX 6800, or an Intel Arc A770. For the RAM, they say 8 gigabytes of RAM. System RAM, 16 gigabytes. They recommend a 70 gigabyte SSD and Windows 10 or 11 64-bit for all versions of the game. If you want the very high settings, you should use an Intel i5 or a AMD Ryzen 7, an NVIDIA RTX 4080, or an AMD RX 7900. The rest of it is all the same, though. So, if you want to check out those stats, it's on Ninja Theory's Twitter account, if you want to check it out there. I don't think there was anything else they said about the game so far, but they have showed off a few different screenshots and stuff like that. The game's looking fantastic, so we'll see how it all comes up and all wraps up on May 21st. There's a new Batman Arkham game coming out. This is going to be a MetaQuest 3 exclusive, at least at launch. I don't know if it'll come to other platforms eventually. But this is the first Batman Arkham game since Arkham VR, which came out for the PSVR 1. And if we're counting, regular experiences, not since Arkham Knight. They did not reveal if Kevin Conroy was doing the voice for Batman in this one. I don't think he will be, since I think he passed before this was here. So I guess we'll wait and see on that one. They didn't show really anything about the game other than a rat running around the streets, which tells me that Ratcatcher may actually be the main villain. It's either Ratcatcher or Scarecrow. There's a lot of rats, though. It almost reminds me of Plague Tale: Innocence in a way. But there was like a cloud of kind of like orangish smoke behind the rats, which tells me maybe it's Scarecrow. But it'd be nice to actually have Ratcatcher. Although canonically, I'm pretty sure he's dead in the Arkham universe since Arkham City. When you find the Riddler thing for him, it tells how he was grabbed and kicking and screaming into the Joker's factory. So we can only assume that he dies, but maybe he didn't. Maybe he lived. Somehow Ratcatcher returned. So we'll see how this is. I don't know if it's going to run on a MetaQuest 2, which is what I have. At least I think I have that. It might actually be a MetaQuest 3 exclusive, only type thing. But I guess I'll see when it comes around. It would be really nice to have a PSVR 2 version of this game, especially because Arkham VR, the original Arkham VR game, was a PSVR 1 exclusive. So I don't know why. Maybe it's because Rocksteady got bought out. But yeah, it'd be nice to see this come to the PSVR 2, especially with how little games are coming to it right now. In a bizarre turn of events, Funko Pop is making a video game called Funko Fusion. And it combines a lot of different properties into one. We got Battlestar Galactica. We got Back to the Future. We have um, um, Breaking Bad, was it? We have we have what's it called? Shaun of the Dead, The Thing, Jurassic World, Jaws, Chucky. I mean, I don't know what the He-Man. I mean, what are we fucking doing here? This is so weird. But essentially, it's a third-person shooter where you take out various creatures and enemies. I mean, does it look good? No. Oh, here's the sizzle reel. All right, here we go. Get ready for this. We got Jurassic World, The Umbrella Academy, Scott Pilgrim, The Thing, Masters of the Universe, Hot Fuzz, Battlestar Galactica, Invincible, Shaun of the Dead, Nope, Back to the Future, Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh, wow, that one went by fast. Five Nights at Freddy's, Xena, Warrior Princess, Jaws, Jurassic Park, Voltron, don't even know what that is, Knight Rider, Chucky, The Mummy, Megan, McThrean, and more. I mean, this is a lot of these franchises. It's kind of like a shit on their grave kind of thing, you know. Back to the Future. This is kind of shitting on that. The Thing. I don't know what to say. This is coming out on the 13th of September. If you really want this, the figures themselves are oversaturating the market, and I feel like you'll mostly find figures in the garbage at this point. But you'll probably be finding this game in the bargain bin in the near future after it releases as well. So there you go. Here's a weird one. A game called Bruce and Box is coming to the Nintendo Switch. When is it coming to the Switch? Does it have a release date? This says that it's already on the Switch shop on the 2nd of May, so I guess it's already out. It's already available to play. So this is coming from the same people who did Give Me Toilet Paper, which was another weird eShop game where you shoved your remote into a toilet roll. But now you get to have the IR camera face you, and you wear a box around your waist. And the game is all about a guy who's naked trying to sneak through a city and not be caught in his little box. He hides in his box when you drop to the floor. And he starts walking when you stand up. It's very bizarre, very weird, but it's also kind of interesting. I think you need a box to play this game? Yes, you need some sort of box to play this game, weirdly enough. So, yeah, kind of a weird concept, but also kind of funny. I might pick this up if I want to, but it's about $5 on the eShop if you want to check that out, and I think it's kind of an interesting idea. The Plucky Squire we haven't had an official release date yet, and we still don't. But the developers came out on Twitter and said that they are planning on releasing the game in 2024. No more delays, PC and console. So that could mean that it is gonna finally come out in 2024, unless something crazy happens, I suppose. I'm very excited to try this game out. It looks like it's gonna be an amazing experience. Can I wait for next year? I guess I could, but it's gonna be hard at this point. They've been showing this game a lot, and it's making me think that the game should be coming out sooner rather than later. But I mean, with game development, there's always something that could go wrong. So more power to them. Take the time they need. If it comes out in 2024, it comes out in 2024. If it doesn't, I'm not gonna go crazy. Earth Defense Force 6 is coming to the European and U.S. audiences, or North American audiences, in July. Just in time for the Helldivers 2 debacle. You can try and play this game. That's kind of similar to Helldivers, I suppose. You shoot giant bugs and aliens and stuff like that with ground troops. It's very co-op centered. The reveal trailer on PlayStation's YouTube channel was pretty funny. It's like a fake news broadcast. Pretty good. It's going to be about $60. The deluxe edition, which includes the season pass, will be $90. Both versions will offer a 10% discount on for PlayStation Plus members, and if you pre-order, you'll gain access to the game 24 hours early if you want. So there you go. Kind of interesting. This one, I mean, the Earth Defense Force games, it kind of peaked around like the third entry. I'll be honest with you. I guess we'll see how this one is received, but yeah, this is coming July 25th. July 25th. It's another year, another Smurfs game. The last Smurfs game that came out was actually pretty well received. This time around, it's the Smurfs Dreams. Essentially, you play as a Smurf in their dream, and it's almost like a top-down / third-person kind of action game. There's some platforming bits in there, of course, as well. It said coming soon on the trailer, so I can only guess it's coming within the next couple of months. You can play solo or co-op in the game while you explore the realms found within dreams and nightmares. Ooh. The Smurfs have been enchanted into a deep sleep by Gargamel. I mean, you know, it looks like a Smurfs game. It probably plays like a Smurfs game, but if that's something that you want to try out, there you go. Hypercharge Unboxed. This came to PC a while back, and they wanted to bring it to Xbox, and now it's finally coming to Xbox. The release date for the game is May 31st. This is the game where you pick up your plastic arms and take on the role of a action figure, and you defend against waves of various toys like army men, bouncing balls, etc. Dinosaurs. It was, I mean, when Greedy Waffles and I played it, it was pretty cool. It gets a bit stale after a while just because it is the same thing over and over again, but I think it's definitely worth trying out and playing. Pretty cool game. I enjoyed it, and it's coming to Xbox, so if you want to check it out, there you go. Here are your PlayStation Plus Essential Games for May. These will be available to download on the 7th if you want to check them out. EA Sports FC 24, Ghost Runner 2, Tunic, and Destiny 2 Lightfall expansion. This is a pretty decent month for games. Not everyone's going to enjoy EA Sports FC 24, me myself probably included. But Ghost Runner 2, I mean, I didn't like it, but I could always try it out again. Tunic is an amazing experience. I remember player 2, P2, really enjoyed it when he played it, and I enjoyed it myself too. I just got lost and didn't know where to go and ended up dropping it for a little bit, so I might pick it back up again. And then Destiny 2 Lightfall, not a Destiny guy, but if you haven't played it yet, there you go. You're getting it for kind of free, not really. And then finally, here are 8 games leaving Xbox Game Pass in May. May 15th to be exact. Eastern Exodus, Yidian Chronicles Rising, Fuga Melodies of Steel 2, Ghost Lore, Just Cause 4 Reloaded, Norco, SD Gundam Battle Alliance, and Supaland 6 Inches Under. If you want to play any of these games before they leave, make sure you do that before May 15th. All right, I'm bringing it back, folks. It's Guess That Song. If you know the song's name and the game that's from, leave a comment either in the comments below, and I will give you a hearty congratulations and a heart if you get it right, or come over to the Discord and chat in the Ferret64 section and try and guess the song there. And I will give you a super reaction if you know it. Let's go ahead and listen to the song for this episode right now. All right, if you know that song and the game that's from, let me know in the places that I already told you to. All right, folks. Thank you for listening to this episode of Ferret64. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you once again to Kalas for giving his thoughts and first impressions of Endless Ocean. Do appreciate that. As a person who did not buy the game themselves, it's nice to have someone come on and talk about it, because I'm also interested to hear how it is as well. unless he didn't do it, which is going to be a little bit awkward for this episode because I've planned some things around it. But Kalas delivers. Kalas delivers. But yeah, thanks again to him if he did it. I'm sure he did. At this point, I don't know yet, but I'm sure he did. I'm like 90% sure he's going to send me the file tomorrow before I edit this. So yeah, if you want to check out Kalas, it's twitch.tv/JustKalas, or you can chat with him on the Discord. Me, myself, Yemmy the Ferret, I stream on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. We're playing SteamWorld Heist right now, and we'll be switching out games once again. Just don't know what game we're going to be switching to just yet. Stay tuned for the summer event. We're doing another summer contest or event. Last year I did the PlayStation Plus games randomly. Any game that I got on PlayStation Plus was put into a wheel and I spun it, and that chose what to play. This year it's going to be a little bit different, a little bit bigger. So keep an ear out for that, or eyes open for that once summer comes around. Probably June and July is going to be the months for that again, just like last year. And then I also run a podcast called Film Freaks with a Z, where we talk about movies. The latest episode is about The Revenant from 2015, if you want to check that out. That's available now. All right, folks, have a good rest of your day, or night, or evening, or week, or whatever. I am Yemmy the Ferret, and I am out of here. I'll talk at you next week. Bye-bye.
The Ferret 64 podcast is owned and edited by Yemmy the Ferret. The song Nightshade, used in the intro and outro, is owned by Adhesive Wombat. Small sound clips during the podcast were made by Yemmy the Ferret. News sources include NintendoLife.com, PushSquare.com, and PureXbox.com. All opinions video game related are my own. Thank you for listening.